yourself? That's one. Have you thoughts of you're killing yourself? I don't recommend saying, are you thinking about hurting yourself? That's not direct enough, guys. Right? You guys know. Do you want to? If you please add anything.
Having that conversation on the drive up here,
Okay.
because she asked me. I'm getting my master's in clinical counseling, so we were kind of having a little preemptive talk about this, and she was asking, like, if you think that someone is having thoughts like this, like, how do you ask it? And I said, you ask them, are you suicidal? Do you have thoughts of killing yourself?
That's right.
You can't beat around the bush.
Amen.
You can't say, are you having negative thoughts, or
No.
are you feeling bad? Because that's too loose
It
and
is.
to be open to interpretation. So
That is exactly right. And if you think about like the balloon analogy, when you say that, as hard as it is for us to say it, when you say that, this is their response.
They're probably waiting for someone to ask, so they don't have to say it, most likely.
Exactly.
Well, that's because I asked her, what if they get mad? She's like, well, then they get mad.
They
But,
do.
you know, you have to be direct.
And
Because I have asked people, well, were you trying to hurt yourself? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So next time it's going to be, were you?
Are you suicidal?
Were you suicidal?
Have you had thoughts of killing yourself? Do you have thoughts of killing yourself? Any other, I don't know, do you guys have any other suggestions to throw out to people? I say direct is best. If they
I would just say, like, yeah, those are two good ones, and
Yep.
then following up and
Yes.
seeing if they have a plan,
Yeah.
because there's a difference between ideation and then actual.
Totally. So the first thing is you
Intent.
directly ask, and I think we'll have a few minutes to practice. We can kind of break up in tables. I know it's weird, but it's good just to do it. It's good just to try it, just do it, because then when you really have to do it, it's there. But the second question is, if they say yes, you say, okay, what do you have a plan? And this would be kind of maybe pointing toward, and depending on, like, this is in the packet, specificity, lethality, availability, proximity. So if they're like, oh, yeah, I think I'm gonna jump off a bridge, but there's no bridges, that's not, take it seriously for sure, but that's very different than yes, I have a gun, it's loaded, I plan on doing it tomorrow at my sister's house. That is, you don't leave that person. You call 911, you accompany them to the mental health professional if you have such available here, or to the emergency room. And hopefully your emergency room is trained in some of this. Sometimes they're not all the way the best, but I hope.
Okay, next question. You ask them if they have a plan, and if they say yes, they do, then what do you say?
You say, what is your plan?
What is your plan?
Tell me your plan. And according to their plan is how seriously you take it. You take it all seriously, but if they have a very specific, very lethal, very available, and very close plan, then you do not leave them. Don't leave their side. Just stick with them until they get help. Bring them to help. Call 911 if you have to. This is hard. That part's hard, especially when it's like your friends or, your loved ones, and now the police are involved, right? But if it is specific, lethal, available, and close in proximity, you have to make sure they're okay. You cannot leave them. And if they won't go with you somewhere, I would be like, I'll go with you. Let's go to the emergency room and get some help. If they won't, then call 911. And I believe that, like in our, the first responders, or the people that they're trained enough, they're not going to be annoyed by the call or anything like that. They're going to want the call, right? Would you guys say that here? Yeah. No. You're like, okay. Well,
we have had calls, and I was with a little guy, and I sat with him for like 45 minutes, just listening to him, and finally he was fine, and we left. But then our next call there, he said something about, well, I like you. I don't like that woman who was here last time. And I said, well, what'd she look like? And he's like, well, he said, she said something to me and I just didn't like it. I said, well, what did she say? Well, I don't remember. I said, well, what did she look like? He's like, Well, she had sticky uppy hair and a bad attitude. And I said, 3 o'clock in the morning, sticky uppy hair, snarky attitude. I said, that was me. he said, no, it wasn't you, because I like you. You sit with me. And I'm like, yeah, no, it was me.
Well, I am thinking about the contract that's in the packet, and Doreen can get you copies. You know, that is something, like if they say yes, and the plan is not what I just mentioned here, but it's serious, you know, they're saying, yeah, I'm thinking about using a gun, and you know they have access to a gun, then first of all, try to mitigate that as what you can do to make that gun less accessible. But this contract is really beautiful. It's a good thing. I mean, you could use a contract or make your own, you know, or just say, okay, man, this part is just so hard. This part is probably the hardest to teach, you know, because some of it is just intuition. And how do you tell if someone is that serious? But more than likely, because of the balloon effect, because just by asking them, you have decreased that buildup. Right there, we're in a better place than we were before, you know. There's no way to do this wrong. Like I said, the only wrong thing to say is nothing at all. If you say something and you care and you act, there's no way from then on out. And pray.
And when you say the best thing to do is just act as if they are going to act out.
Yeah.
And
Every time it happens.
as a pastor, and as a lot of the people in our church here who deal with kids and minors and that type of thing, we have an obligation. It's not even.
Yeah.
We have to. We have to go higher up.
Yes.
We don't have a choice.
Yeah. So like if it is a kiddo, then definitely the family needs to be you let the parents know. Sometimes that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the home life is not the best, but you're right. You have to go higher, at least to the family, if not higher than that.
Right.
School officials.
Right.
I say bring in everyone. Some of the literature talks about gatekeepers, you know. Some of us are just gatekeepers, teachers and police officers and pastors. And so you can find, like if you're in a position and you feel like, oh, I don't know what to do, then find a gatekeeper. And it might be good to have a gatekeeper training, I don't know, at some point in your community, just to get everyone kind of speaking the same language surrounding suicide. Like that QPR, like I talked about, it's 1 hour. So 1 hour training is all. And then the rest of you could know the gatekeepers. You could have a list of them. I'd like to spend a little bit of time before I leave here today compiling a list of what you feel like your resources are here, just so everyone can leave here with just something. I have, there's a 1-800 number, there's a text number, that's always good. You could call it, or you could sit with them when they call it. Here's a number. Let's call it. I'm going to call it and sit with them and then compile a list of resources.
Aren't they going to try to make that number much easier to remember rather than the 1-800 number that we have, 811 or something?
I don't know. I think it's 1-800 talk.
It's the 273 part that's hard. Where's the other one that's suicide?
Yeah, it should just be 2.
You can't spell. Yes.
Yeah, you tried it,
Yeah, talk. That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you do 911, do you get around that?
Yes.
Yes, that is. And this is a national hotline number, but it connects you into a call center in Great Falls. So this number is like everyone around the whole nation has this number, but then when you call it, it connects you to your local. But I talked to her, one of the things that I talked about is could we have something in rural Montana? Could we have our own little call center? It's so different. It's it's different what we deal with out here than in Great Falls.
It is.
It's such a different thing.
This is what I have to say about 911 and small town emergency rooms, is they will, almost 90 whatever %, they will go out of the little facility to a psych ward or for a psych referral. And so we could breathe a sigh of relief, but I'm just telling you that sometimes the people that have made major suicide attempts beat the EMS people home. because the psych resources are just overloaded. And if they, we have actually had that happen. So that sounds like kind of a bummer, but just know that if you, I agree with Emerald, if there's all those things are in place, that you don't have any choice but to say 911, but if you could think about that brave soul that is at the other end of the suicide hotline and be that kind of person in live flesh in your community, that is super powerful. And I honestly believe that Montana is, I am so excited about the synergy of community. It's me, in my DNA is the synergy of 1 + 1 equals more than 2 because of the synergy of community. And that communities are gonna have to be there and be the answer because psych wards are not working and psych medications overall, long-term don't work. And so anyway, I'm just offering that. And not that it's wrong to call 911, but just know that as a rule, that leads them to the emergency room and that we still have a lot to learn even as caretakers. We don't want to, we just want to refer to somebody, we just want to put it down the line out of love. But I'm just saying at the end of the line, the psych wards overall are not the answers. Does that make sense?
Well, I feel like